All right. Yeah. So back from our trip, everything went, fairly smooth. So secured our code program, you guys, like I was just telling you, that wasn't very hard to do at all. We actually secured the source code rather quickly. Um, yeah. And we were able to accomplish everything that we wanted to do. Remember when we had a little meeting and we wanted to talk about everything we wanted to do? Well, it wasn't that hard at all. Um, to get that done. It was kind of costly though. I'm going to say that it does not come without a cost. Working with AI is not free, you guys, and what it's capable of and what it was able to accomplish for us comes at a cost, and that's fine because I think it's quality what we got out of it, and at an exponential rate. When I first got there, he was standing, he was drinking coffee. So this is like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and he's drinking coffee when I get there. First of all, he let us stay there at his house, so I didn't have to spend any money on a hotel. And when I got there, he was already working on, coding. And so I was basically coming to, bring him some stuff, some things that I was going to hand deliver, um, talk about what we wanted to see in that, and the whole project, just really bringing some inspiration, some vision. And I got to tell you guys, man, he got on the computer, and I've never seen anybody do that kind of thing where they're just, first of all, he's very present while I'm sitting there and I'm kind of talking with him, and the whole time he's typing. And it's like, yeah, okay, and you want to do what? Yeah, and type, typing. And I look over at him, and he's already got AI agents that he created to help us accomplish this thing, which was quite fascinating to watch. Um, so what he did was he actually designed. First of all, he was creating a whole new business when me and him kind of got involved in doing this, which is this goes back to 2016 when I first started mentioning this to him. Um, and we weren't able to do it until now. It was only through a series of very unfortunate events that brought us together in such a way. Um, a lot of things that were happening in my life and where he was in his. We just weren't able to work. And matter of fact, one of the things that happened to him that was very unfortunate is he built a business with his son, and within a matter of a few minutes, it was burned up in a fire. That was an accident, and so God really just kind of closed that door. And we were talking about that, and he was telling me how hard that was, and he's been really struggling since that happened, and just going through that. I was like, yeah, I remember when that happened. And then I said, you know, when Yah opens a door, he'll close the other door. And sometimes he'll force you to do, you know, what he wants you to do. He'll make it unbearable for you, very much like Elijah the prophet, who was very comfortable where he was under the shade by the brook, the raven coming and feeding him every day. And the only way that God could get him to move was to dry up the brook and wither the vine and have the raven stop moving. So that's what I mean by series of unfortunate events that actually kind of force your hand. So you've heard me say it several times. It was out of necessity that we had to do this. There was no getting around it. 25 years with the same software, and we had taken it probably as far as you could, um, maybe a few years over. So things worked out to where we could work. And as I said before, this is costly. This is not, even though we're using AI or used AI. This is high tech. Um, we went into quantum very quickly. Remember, if you guys saw in Discord yesterday, that's one of my new words, a favorite word, quantum, and the rate that we are able to do things now with using computers and processors and different things that are on the market now, um, can do supercomputing. So he created. a business, a website, a platform that anybody can go to and basically kind of create a business model. Or let's say you wanted to learn something, let's say you want to learn day trading with crypto or something like that. You could go to this website and you could, use the AI agents there to create either a lesson or a AI to teach you this thing, or you can create a website that is, automated and does all the trading and thinking for you, that kind of thing. If you're a doctor, let's say you're studying brain surgery and stuff, you could create an AI agent that would be, like a co-pilot. Like with Microsoft is coming out with something called Copilot. It's going to be part of the platform there with Outlook. That is an AI integrated system where you can interact with it. It can help you with your work, right? Huge, huge possibilities. Literally, I was standing in his living room pacing back and forth and just being flooded with different ideas on top of what we already presented. And there was basically nothing I could come up with that we couldn't do. It was kind of shocking, you guys. And all this was happening at an exponential rate. Within a very short period of time, these AI were had written like 7,500 lines of code. The next day, it was several 100,000 lines of code. By the way, I fell asleep on the couch there, sitting next to him. Woke up the next morning. It's like sunrise, right? 6 o'clock in the morning. He's still working and decides to, take a break. He goes to bed. And then about 2 hours later, he's back up doing it again, writing more code. And like I said, one of the very first things we got was the code program. That wasn't the difficult part. It's all the other stuff, the features and everything else, because we created well, I say I brought inspiration and idea and things like that. It was basically James that had the super genius to figure out how to do that with his um, AI army. Um, no worries, Michelle. No worries. We're just now getting started. He had all these things figured out already, and was as I'm talking with it, he's integrating these kind of things. So the we're going to have a code program, a website that our school will be run from. Everything will be run from the website, you guys, and from our own servers, our own processors, and things like that. Your computer will basically be tapping into this system. Okay. The code program is basically a modified version of it is a form of Torah. Okay. It has the Leningrad, it's got the Aleppo and two other, it's slipping me right now, two other texts that it already has, and it's in every language. So we're not locked into just Hebrew and English, all right, like we have been. And I have students from other countries, right? Like Miguel from Spain. Now Miguel's able to take this class because he speaks English. But let's say Miguel could not speak English, he wouldn't be able to take it because the translations are in English. Now anybody who speaks Spanish, Korean, Japanese, Russian, French, Italian, we can do it in every single one of them. Now that's crazy to me. The rabbis are now trying to do that same thing, and we accomplished that in one day, you guys, with what he's able to do. Yes, we will be able to use the New Testament and much more. All right, so this is going to come already with the Talmud. I mean, excuse me, the Tanakh. I've got Talmud on my mind. With the Tanakh, okay, and we can load other texts to it, not just the New Testament. We can do the Targum in Latin. We could, if speaking of Talmud, if we wanted to examine the Talmud, we could also load the Talmud to it. We can put any text to this algorithm. I was told it's not a problem. Okay, Enoch, any of them, we'll be able to test those. Okay, and we will roll those out uh, at a certain time. Yeah, we're not going to roll out every feature all at one time. We want to kind of roll those out in phases because it's going to be a lot to learn. first of all, this went above and beyond what I even thought was possible. We were talking about VR and, being inside of a matrix and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know that that was even possible, but the code has already been written for that. Okay. So at some point we're going to roll out a feature where if you are a VR person or a AR person, I didn't even know what AR is, but AR is you can use your cell phone, right? And be able to look at these matrices in a virtual world, or have goggles and those kind of things and interact with the Bible, with scriptures, and with the matrix in a virtual world, which kind of blows my mind. That was also done rather quickly by the AI. We just told the AI, what we wanted to do. First of all, you got to teach this AI things. All right. So he was already working on that, putting all kinds of information into a team of EIs, which were creating a code searcher AI that will be part of our system. Okay, so we will have a intelligent AI that we can interact with. It will be another feature that we have. It's not a downloadable feature. It's only available on our website. It will be part of the website. So when you sign in, right? So your computer program will be available through the school, through the website. Now, students will have it as part of their curriculum. Okay. So the course will be 2 years long. At the end of the course, you will get a download version of this code program, but also have access to all the features, meaning off the website, you'll have a scaled down version of the code program, which is the Tanakh, right? The basic version. But when you sign into the website, you'll have all the features. You'll have access to all the features, the AI feature, the VR feature, and a few others that we were going to roll out. I'm trying to watch. Okay, so I see what Christine is doing. She's trying to explain. So that'll be part of the school, right? And when you guys graduate, when you finish the course, you'll have a download version and all the features accessible to you guys. And here's the other thing: the AI feature is, I think, one of the most remarkable because you can speak to it. You don't have to know Hebrew. You can talk to it, and basically, it's sort of like a Jarvis or computer. Remember Star Trek? Computer, and you would speak to the computer. It is a tool to help you search. It will know everything about code searching. It's got part of me in it. It's got part of the rabbis in it. It's got a lot of information. It's still being created right now. Okay, so it is going to be a super intelligent code searcher. It has a name. You guys want to know the name? His name is Gabriel. And so you'll be able to say, Gabriel, search so and so and so and so, right? And it will do that. Its name is Gabriel, if you didn't hear, Michelle. That's the name of the AI that will be part of the code program. It is a feature. Okay, it's not a downloadable feature. It's only available on the website. So you can interact. It's going to be contained or housed. It has to have a huge database. Okay. And so you can interact with it at the website. It will be like a coach as well for people just learning how to use the code program. It will be just sort of like PD on TorahSoft. You know, the little parrot bird that comes up, the very archaic parrot bird. Think of that, but very intelligent, right? It will be able to help you navigate through the program. You can ask it questions. If you get stuck on something, it will help you. Okay. And it does it in every language. That's the other thing. Really like that about it. Um, we will also offer, people want to just use the code program. Let's say they don't want to necessarily take the class, and maybe it's too much for them to bite off. They will be able to sign in at the website and use the code program on the website as a kind of test drive. We can do that like with a very small monthly subscription where anybody can come and test drive it and use it and see the features and those kinds of things. And if they decide they want to take the class, they can. Now we're making it this way, you guys, because something happened with the last two times I ran a school with the code programs that we got. It would be very typical for me to talk to several people during the week. Many of them would sign up, and a couple of those people would bail on me after 2 or 3 months after they got the code program, right? Gone. Wouldn't see them no more, which was very frustrating because I was constantly trying to fill the roster. Um, Not going to be happening this time. That's why we're making it proprietary. It's not something you can transfer. Even those that graduate from the class and get a download, you will not be able to pass that to another computer without another control key from the school, and we will work out if you get a new computer or something like that, and it's something you got to do, or let's say your computer blows up and you get a new computer, you can get another one, but it will be specifically for you. It will not be transferable. Now, this is to protect us in the school and from people who are trying to rip us off and recreate that. And by the way, this whole thing is highly encrypted. It's got government level encryption at the website. We're talking DARPA level. Okay, so quantum level encryption that's going on. Nobody's going to be able to hack the school. Nobody's going to be able to do something bad, steal anything. It's all going to be controlled. I will be running the front of the house. James will be running the back of the house. Or if you want to look at it like Star Trek, I'll be Captain Kirk in the wheelhouse, and James is the one who built the ship and who's running the engine room at the same time. Yeah, that has been a thing, Margie, where people have done that. I've had former students that have taken the code program and passed it around to the people that have not taken the class, and that wasn't fair because I basically had a verbal agreement with everybody that that would not happen, and I had several people that stabbed me in the back and did otherwise. So we're not going to allow that to happen. This is something that listen, myself and James are going in the red right now creating this. This costs about $400 a day to do this, to create this. You heard me right. It costs some money to do this. Well, we're already about $10,000 in debt doing this. But here's the thing. Both of us believe this is revolutionary and very pioneering. So we believe that the upfront cost that we're having to suffer, right, is worth it in the long run. And once we get up and going and we can launch, once we get students into school and we can sell subscriptions for people who just want to come by and use the program monthly, that kind of thing, $20 a month, right, to use this technology, right, it will enable us to do this and even expand. It will also be something that we could expand. The way he described me is we're building out, not up. Okay, so there we can add things and do different things further down the road. Okay, it is, yeah, that's right. It is very expensive to run this and to run this kind of hardware and software. Um, this has not been done before, you guys. The rabbis are not even, from what I gather, the AI that they're using is ChatGPT and Grok and all that stuff. We're not using off or online AI. This is custom created AI that will have a reverence for the creator of the universe, but also the Bible. You understand? It is custom made to only know the Bible, not the world. It won't know about Donald Trump and the Epstein files and all those kinds of things that Grok and ChatGPT and all those know. Okay. So I get that there's some people that are nervous about AI, and there's certainly going to be people who are not going to be happy that we're doing this. Okay, Paul, you made mention to that with me. There, people are not going to like this. I I want to try to reassure you at this point that we are not trying to create a godlike supercomputer or anything like that. All right, we're simply we are consciously creating a very advanced Bible research tool, something that has never been done before. So not only can you search codes, but you can interact with this AI on Bible concepts, right? If you wanted to read the scriptures to you, that could happen as well. If you want to talk about different concepts of the Bible, you're not even searching codes. It will be able to do that as well. And like I said, any of the texts that we add into it later, you'll be able to search it just like a Bible code. You can also interact with the AI on different concepts of that. Like if let's say we wanted to enter into the Talmud and we wanted to ask this AI to compare and contrast the Talmud with the Bible and show me all the contradictions or whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. It can do that. You understand? So it is a very valuable tool. Okay, so probability. So, what we do in searching codes, it comes down to mathematics and probability. What is probable, what is not probable. This program has got the capability of helping you understand what's a good code and what's just randomness, right? Let's say you found something and you think, wow, is this a code? It doesn't seem like it's a code. It's kind of spread out and kind of sparse and stuff. You can interact with this software and don't have to waste your time on codes that are just randomness. It will be able to identify those, even assist you in finding very complex codes. Excuse me, guys, I just ate right before we came. Pardon me. Assist you in finding very complex codes, long uh, with extensions, right? Those kinds of things. And by the way, like Michelle, for if you just came in, I mentioned you don't have to be. Let's say you don't know how to search codes at all, right? And you're just getting onto our site. This software will be able to walk you through it just by voice command. Okay. So if you can talk in any language, you can do this. Okay. So we're literally making this available for everybody on the planet. I'm not even kidding. I'm coming back home, you guys, and I'm driving down the interstate, and I'm just in awe at thinking about this, and every thought is like, this is so pioneering. This is almost like me and James. I mean, like I'm in a surgery with this guy, and he's doing open heart surgery, maybe the first heart transplant, and I'm handing him the tools, right? And I'm just kind of in awe of this whole process. The pioneering, you understand? And we can't find anybody, not even the rabbis, they're doing anything remotely close to this. They are doing something similar, but not even close. Um, they're using Grok and ChatGPT. They're not using an integrated um, system. And so I'm kind of excited about that. Like I said, pioneering. I've never done something pioneering. Um, Maybe this channel we are well, I don't know if we've been the first believers to do code searcher, but we are the largest on YouTube, even larger than Glazerson's channel. So we got to lead the way. I just so happened to watch something the other day about AI and Torah codes, and I thought it was fascinating. I shared it with some of you guys, and I think Leanna, you might have said I didn't really like that too much. Sometimes I post things just for the information you got. I may not agree with everything in the post, right? But I kind of expect you guys to be able to chew the bones and chew the meat and spit out the bones, right? But this particular broadcast caught my eye because it's about AI and Bible codes, and so they are working on some things just a little bit different. And there were some things that were very interesting in this. Um, but also some things that kind of provoke me. What do you mean? Warnings need to get out. Warnings about predict. That's another thing. So this code program is going to be very aware of Ramsel method and Monte Carlo. So Ramsel, we're looking at interbiblical, like the Bible confirming itself. Yeshua codes. Monte Carlo would be like uh, prophetic things, things that are going to happen. And so if you find a code, the program will be able to tell you, this is 90%, or, it'll give you a probability, whether this is something to look at or don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal, right? Which might have been a really good tool to have in the time of the election, when I'm looking at multiple codes and I'm trying to quantify the probabilities in my head. You understand? Which also takes a level of discernment, the Holy Spirit, all that kind of thing to figure out, well, is this valid or not? Human beings are flawed, right? We can make mistakes. We can be biased. And sometimes those kind of things can get in the way of being accurate. Our goal with this is to be more accurate, to have a tool that will help us make accurate calls on something. Let's say if it was something that needed to be gotten out, a warning, right? We will be able to see whether the probability justifies that or not, right? If it's a probability of 10, it's probably not a good idea to get out the pom-poms and go, hey guys, we need to pay attention to this, right? No. But if the probability is 99%, right, then that's the other deal. So again, a tool to help us discern whether something is but okay, so intuition is something that we cannot integrate into the computer. That comes with the code searcher. If you come to the platform with that, the intuition, we're gonna give the tools that fill in the gaps everywhere else. Does that make sense? Okay. So absolutely, you need to have intuition. I would call that discernment, or the ruach, right? Some call it whatever. You're definitely going to need that. All right. The computer's just not going to do everything by itself. It's going to need you to think. It's going to need you to have some inspiration and have some vision in what to search, right? It can merely aid you in that. It's not going to do the work for you. It will do a lot of the work, but you got to be present. Does that make sense? You still do this direct search. That's correct. Right? Any questions so far, you guys? I thought you guys would be excited about this. I was floored. I couldn't even stand. I couldn't even stand to sit down while I'm there. I'm pacing back and forth, just all these ideas, and I'm like, "Hey man, can we?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, 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 we can do that." Right? It was
I'm
amazing.
so excited. I'm ready to bust over here. I am.
You
So
guys should be excited. I don't think you understand what this means. Okay, before we could only do this in Hebrew and English. That's all we could offer, right? Now I had to turn away so many people that could speak only broken English, and they wanted to search code so bad, but all their mother tongue was German or Dutch or whatever, right? You guys, the codes are searched in Hebrew, but they can be translated to other languages. Okay, so I'm not telling you that you're going to be searching the codes in Polish, right? The matrix is going to be in Hebrew, but you're going to have a Polish translation. In other words, you'll be able to do both. Does that make sense? That's if you spoke Polish, right? Yes, Leanna.
Yes, I was wondering if when you're searching, you put a word in that
Hmm.
you're searching for, and there's 30 or 40 options.
Yeah.
Is are we able to place, you can do that with keys, and I think you can do it with Torah Soft, but you cannot do it with Code Finder.
Yeah.
And that to me is important.
Hmm.
If it's sitting, if you pick a word, is there going to be an option like that in the program?
I think I understand what you're saying. Like every time so when you're searching, if you don't do something very specific, it's going to create a new table, right?
Yes, or like for one, I had one code that had Baron in it 30 times, and the code finder puts it where it wants to put it. It won't let you pick. In
Hmm.
keys, you can go through the whole list of words and
Yeah.
it'll show you where that word is in your table. And I'm wondering if that's in there because to me, that's really important.
Yeah. So again, this is going to be very similar to the TorahSoft. So all the functions on the TorahSoft and more. Okay. So um, you will be able to search individual books, verses. You can customize your searches. Um, it's not going to function like CodeFinder. That was one thing I don't like about CodeFinder is once you get an access term, I want to work on that and not come up with other access terms for every term that you search, right? And that's what it seemed like it would do to me. It would create all these more folders and stuff that you got to kind of search through instead of giving you more ELS results, right? So we don't want it to be too much like CodeFinder. CodeFinder to me was a little too I admire that it has all the different text that you can search, but for me, it wasn't user friendly. And this is why you never saw me kind of really get into the two code. I had it several times. I didn't flow with it really well. I like the way the code find TorahSoft flows, right? And so that's kind of what it's based off of is a very souped up TorahSoft. So it's sort of like we put a Hemi in it, gave it some nitrous, and put some Mickey Thompsons on there, right? It's souped up, right? And it's in multiple languages, which is fantastic. I just can't even believe we were able to do that. But it happened. Again, we have the code program. It's already written, you guys, right? We're developing everything else, the actual site. The curriculum is also being written right now, and that is going to be based off of me, all of my teachings, Gladerson, Art Levitt. Basically, what we're putting into this Gabriel is all the parts that we want you guys to learn, right? So it's not going to have like, first of all, it's not the kind of AI that's just going to wake up one day and start doing weird stuff, right? This is not that kind of AI, right? It is specific to the Bible and Bible concepts and what we give it. It will never go outside of our housing. It is going to be on site. Everybody understand this is not like ChatGPT and Grok where it has free range of the internet. Okay. And that's why it's accessible only at the website and it's not something you can download, right? And furthermore, the data that's stored in it, I don't think your computers would be able to run efficiently with all of this unless you had a very sophisticated computer. And that's something James is working with, by the way. He's working with computing I don't have access to. Really. This guy, first of all, he works more than one job, right? He works for the city as a tech specialist. He also works as a contractor for the government, third shift, right? Where he's doing all kinds of crazy computer stuff, right? And he's doing this and has a new business that he started where he's creating AIs and creating other kinds of businesses for people. He's very busy. The fact that he's able to do this from inspiration, because let me tell you, I've tried to talk to engineers, underwriters, everybody that I could to try to get backing and help with this and to no avail. All right. So the fact that the guy's got time to do and he has a desire and a passion to do it can only be God, you guys, can only be y'all. Um, absolutely, absolutely, Margie. I couldn't listen. I went there on a budget and barely had enough gas money to get back, and I felt guilty that didn't have any money to give him at the time. I'm sitting here watching him work all night, get 2 hours of sleep, then work all day long. I left at 6 o'clock. He had to be at work at 11 to work a third shift all night long, right? So he was gassed, just bags under his eyes, but he was happy and he was inspired and motivated, right? So it's quite remarkable that we got somebody in our corner like this that I haven't been able to give him 1 cent, you guys, because I haven't had it. We're gonna make that a priority here, Michelle. How can you help? She says, we're going to do some fundraising. I may even do some raffles for 10 positions in the school. I don't know, but we're going to, some way or another, we're going to pay for this. We have to. This has got to be done. So we will do some fundraising at some point, just if we could get to the point where we can launch. I think with subscriptions and with a full roster of students, we will be able to make it where we can cover the cost that it costs to do this. I'll figure that out soon, Michelle. I would like to do a broadcast or some kind of introduction with James and let him show us, some of the things that he's done. Let him show us his website where people can go and, do something quite similar. You know, I don't really want to see anybody do exactly what we did, but the website he created is where it happened, right? Where it's very easy to flow through that. And I've posted links to it if you guys are over there on Facebook where he's been sharing some stuff. It's quite easy to flow through. If you got a little bit of computer knowledge and you got an idea or basic concept, you can create a business, a school. Let's say, like I said, if you want to learn day trading, you could create a school to teach yourself how to do that, or you could create an AI and create a business where you're doing all that automated. Literally, the sky's the limit with this kind of stuff, right? So we're in the cutting edge of this right now. I'm looking at some of the tech stuff, and they're saying 2026 is the year that AI is going to bust loose on the scene, and we're going to see it everywhere. Like I just said, Microsoft is bringing out Copilot, right? So if you got Microsoft or using Microsoft Office or Outlook or something like that, it will have an AI addition to it here very soon called Copilot. And that's where everybody's going is this kind of stuff. Um, the rabbis, on the other hand, are still using outside sources. It looks like. I got something really. I don't know if we got time to watch that today. That's kind of long. Um, Maybe next time. But they're like I said, they're trying to do something really similar, but nowhere close to what we're doing, you guys. What we're doing is, I think, the very first immersive and interactive Bible research software in the world. They are using ChatGPT. We found that out today. And there's some problems with it too. It kind of lies. Um, Sometimes, like they asked it to quote something from the Mishnah, and it made up a quote. I was like, so yeah, um, we're not using ChatGPT and all those. It's actually something that's integrated into our system and what we're doing as a tool. All right. So, any questions, you guys, or anything you guys want to share? Um, that's basically class tonight. I wanted to share where we are and what we're doing. I don't have any codes, unless you guys have any codes that you want to share. I just kind of want to give you an update um, on
Did you
that.
have
And then
any did you have any videos to show us tonight?
I did, but it's 48 minutes, you guys, but it's on Torah Codes and AI. You guys want to see it? Listen, if you gotta go, I know it's almost, if you gotta go,
48 minutes isn't too bad.
all right, okay, all right, I'll play
I
that.
want to see it. Yeah.
Let's watch
Might
it.
as well.
It hasn't been seen by too many. It's mostly Jews have seen this, but yeah, I think Leanna may have seen this when I posted the other day. All right, hang tight. Hold on. So this is the interview of Moshe Zeldman with this guy here, and they're going to be talking about AI and the Torah codes. And here we go.
Welcome to Sparks of History, where Jewish history and world history meet. We are very pleased and honored to have with us today Rabbi Moshe Zeldman. Rabbi Zeldman earned a BA in philosophy and artificial intelligence from the University of Toronto. And Rabbi Zeldman earned his rabbinic ordination, smicha, from Aish Torah. Rabbi Zeldman has taught Jewish thought, machshava, and leadership development seminars to beginners and advanced audiences in over 20 countries around the globe. Additionally, as part of the Asia Torah team, Rabbi Zeldman developed new branches of Asia Torah in Chile, Mexico, and Costa Rica. Currently, Rabbi Zeldman is also the founder and director of an organization called Meet the Israelis. And Meet the Israelis is a nonprofit organization based in Jerusalem, whose highly innovative programs expose participants to the cultural, ethnic, and political diversity of Israeli society. And today we will be exploring the fascinating topic of Bible Torah codes and how artificial intelligence, AI, impacts on Torah biblical codes. Rabbi Zeldman, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Looking forward to having a great conversation.
Thank you. To get started, how would you define the basic concepts of biblical Torah codes? Are they truly hidden messages, or are they patterns we impose on the text?
It's a very good question. And I think where the question is coming from is, we're familiar with the idea that sometimes people can find patterns because they want them to be there, even if they're not really there. You can read into things. We're all familiar with the idea of, people that read their horoscopes in the newspaper, and it says, you'll meet somebody interesting this week. And then lo and behold, because you were whatever predetermined to want to find it, you'll find patterns. You'll say, oh my gosh, there's a new bus driver today. My horoscope was true. So we're familiar with the idea that people can find patterns even if they're not there. Certainly the idea of a code in a Torah, you're talking about a huge text and you're counting through the letters. It's true that if a person wanted to, you could find any code in any book. That's definitely true. When we talk about Torah codes, we're talking about a very rigorous scientific approach where, and we can get into the details, but it's that when we find a pattern of codes, find a phrase of some sort, we have ways of testing it to make sure that it's not a random finding and to make sure that it is something unique and that's actually there, not just something that we, like you said, that we imposed. The details of how we do it and how we measure it and how we verify it, I can get into, but the basic answer to your question is, we know it's not something we're imposing because we have scientific ways of measuring and testing the results we find.
Okay, I think we'll get to that. But before we do, is there a historical basis for Torah codes and the belief that they are meaningful? And do we find any Jewish sources that mention this idea?
100%. The truth is, the only reason people, let's say, the famous example is Rabbi Chaim Dov Weissmandel, who was involved with saving Jews in the Holocaust from Slovakia. He was a big Rosh Hashiva. So he quoted many early sources. In the 1950s, he quoted sources of Kabbalah going back hundreds of years as the basis of why he, in the modern day, looked for patterns of codes. Of course, he didn't have a computer, 1940s, 1950s, but he looked for codes that he found, and he published a whole book of them. He brings sources like, the most basic source I'll tell you is the Zohar. The Zohar is kind of the starting point. And the Zohar has this fascinating idea where it says that when God created the world, he first created the Torah as like a blueprint, and then consulted the blueprint, and then designed the world around the blueprint. So there's this concept that the Torah isn't just a book of instructions given at Mount Sinai. The Torah is, in a sense, the architectural underpinning, the blueprint for how the whole world functions. So the Vilna Gaon, hundreds of years later, the Vilna Gaon, commenting on that idea, makes the following statement. He says, every single detail of every single human being and every single species and every single event in the whole history of humanity is all found and coded in the text from the beginning of Genesis to the end of Deuteronomy, from the 5 books of Moses. Every detail of every event, every human being, minor, major, is all found in the text. And it's because that's a blueprint. The blueprint is so precise that it includes every detail. The Ramban talks about codes, the Rabbeinu Bechaya, Rabbi Moshe Zeldman, the Kabbalists talk about codes. So all we're doing in the modern day is we're looking for codes because we already have a very strong Jewish tradition that they're there. Our job is just to see if we can actually discover them.
And what are some of the most compelling examples of codes that have been rediscovered? And again, as you mentioned, how do they fit into the rigorous parameters that Torah codes have to comply with?
So here's what we do. I'll give you sort of the algorithm of how we work, and then I'll give you the example that we found using the algorithm. We will take the text of Torah, 304,805 letters long. That's the entire text in Hebrew of the original Torah, the original Bible. We have it on a computer, and we give the computer a series of words to look for encoded in the text. Now, we know these words are related. So a famous example would be, the Twin Towers, 9/11. But we know in history, there's a very direct connection between the word Twin Towers, the word explosion, the phrase 9/11, the name Bin Laden, the word New York, the word airplane. These words we know because of a historical event are viscerally connected to each other. We say, computer, look at Twin Towers. That's what Twin Towers are called. So the computer is going to go through the entire text of the 5 books to see if there's anywhere a pattern of the phrase Twin Towers that would appear every one letter, every second letter, skipping every other letter, every third letter, every fourth, every fifth, every sixth, every seventh. It'll keep looking and looking and looking until it finds stop equal skipping code of the word Twin Towers. So the computer takes a few minutes to find the phrase Twin Towers. Okay. The fact that we found a word in a book or a phrase in a book in and of itself doesn't mean anything. I could probably look in Harry Potter in Hebrew or English and find Twin Towers also encoded some equal number of letters because it's a huge text. But here's where it gets interesting. We now tell the computer to look for the word September 11th. September 11th on the Hebrew calendar of that year, 2001, was the 23rd of Elul, Chaf Gimel Elul. You say, computer, go through the entire text like you did the first time. Where is there an equal skipping code of the phrase September 11th? 23rd of Elul. Computer goes through and it finds that phrase happens to land in the same region of text as the phrase Twin Towers.
With the same pattern?
It's a difference. It's always an equal skip of letters. The number of letters in between is always going to be different. Okay, always every word's going to have it. But the fact that they all appear encoded, like the word twin, Towers, Bin Laden, September 11th, Yishmael, terrorism, the fact that all these words appear encoded in the same area, very close to each other, where they could have landed anywhere in a 300,000 letter text, that already tells us there's definitely something unique here. Now, what we do next to written test it is we say, you know what? Let's take a random book that's the same size in Hebrew as the book of Torah, same 300,000 letters, and let's tell the computer to look for the exact same thing with the same rigor and the same algorithm in that text. So it's going to look for the word Twin Towers, skipping every 1, every 2, every 3, every 4, every 5. It's going to look for the word 23rd of Elul. It's going to look also every 2, 3, 4, 5. It rarely finds in other books any time there any kind of proximity of related phrases being near each other. So in other words, you might tell me if we looked in War and Peace, take the Hebrew book, the Hebrew translation of Tolstoy's War and Peace. We look for the code there. It says twin over here, hour over here, September 11th over here, Bin Laden over there. No big deal. But when we check thousands of other random books, or tens of thousands, or sometimes hundreds of thousands of other random books, and we find that it's only in Torah that the words appear, including just scrambling up texts. Any other random book that we look at, we almost never find any kind of a correlation of words being near each other. Does that answer your question?
That does answer the question. And any other compelling examples?
Oh, so sure. I mean, I'll put it like this. For every major event that happens in the world, we are curious and we look to see if there's codes about those events. So, in modern times, I would say we had a lot of findings about the coronavirus. So we just literally tell the computer to find the word corona, the word virus, the word China, the word pandemic, the word vaccination. like just related words. They all appear encoded in the same area. Now the computer will look for the word Ukraine, Zelensky, war, Russia, Putin, border, explosions, soldiers, casualties. They all appear encoded near each other. We tell the computer to look for Hamas, October 7th, Nova Music Festival, Kibbutz Be'eri, the names of the hostages. And again, we find those words encoded. And like I say, for every time we find a bunch of words in a cluster, uniquely in a compact area in Torah, we check 100,000 other books, or sometimes even more, and we just don't find those kind of patterns anywhere in any other random book. And how do I'll put it like this: there's no major event in history that we've looked for that we have not found codes for. We found codes about the attempted assassination on Trump. Right, he was on the golf course, and the CIA found a guy hiding in the bushes over there. So I don't remember his name now, but the word Trump, golf, the name of the assassin, the words all appear there.
And when we say in the same region, how is that defined? How is the same textual region defined?
So what would help is, man, thinking when we finish the podcast, I'll actually send you a couple of samples we can put on the screen. It'll be easier to see it. It'll have to be hard for me right now to call it up. I can send you a couple of samples, but it's essentially saying once the computer finds a word, let's say a computer finds a word every 82 letters, it'll set up a screen with 82 letters per line so that you can see the word vertically going down. And then we look for other codes and see if they appear near it. We literally just measure, this word is 8 letters apart, this other word is 12 letters apart, or further away, 20 letters further away. We're measuring overall how close the words are compared to how they are in random text. Like I said, the analogy I always use when I teach this as a presentation is I say, I think it's a fairly accurate analogy. Imagine you're standing on the roof of the Empire State Building. You make a paper airplane and you throw it out. It'll spin around Manhattan for 10 minutes until it lands on, top of some shoe store on 42nd Street. You make a second paper airplane, you also throw it out. It spins also. It's flying all over Manhattan randomly. Then you notice that it landed on top of the same roof of the same shoe store on 42nd Street. So you're like, what are the odds of 2 airplanes that could have landed anywhere in Manhattan landing that close? Maybe take a third airplane, a third word. Zelensky, Putin, Ukraine, war, Russia. We keep throwing out airplanes. We keep looking for they could land anywhere, and we find them so close to each other that we can statistically measure how unlikely it is to be by chance. I'll tell you the follow-up to this is we were so, as a research team, we were so impressed by how strong the findings were that we actually got a top journal of statistics, a world-renowned journal of statistics at Stanford University, to publish the results in a scientific peer-reviewed paper. Now, once you publish a scientific result saying there are hidden divine codes in the Bible, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And we got a lot of pushback from every corner of the world. There was a very, very vigorous, nasty, hostile reaction from many scientists, mostly Israelis, but also Russians and Australians and Canadians and Americans and from all over the place. And they really pushed us very hard on it. How did you how to spell the names properly? And how did you measure it? And which other texts did you track? They went through it with a fine-tooth comb. They ended up themselves publishing their own paper 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, claiming that they think we could have cheated. They found some areas in our experiment where they think there was room for us to play around. So what we did is we have since then published 3 other papers in 3 other journals to show that there's no possible way that there could have been any kind of manipulation. So there are now 4 or 5 published papers in top scientific journals that show the code result is real. To this day, I'm not aware of any scientist anywhere in the world who has any refutation of any of the results.
When people hear the phrase Bible codes, as opposed to Torah codes. Do they think that it is the Bible as the Christian world speaks of it, that it is a combination of the old and the new, and that's how they understand Bible codes? And what does that mean?
It's a really good question. So we ourselves always called it Torah codes, right? We're Torah-believing Jews. We relate to it as Torah. We study Torah. We believe in Torah. But when we published it in the open world, we called it. We said this. There's a vernacular word in an academic journal, as we called it. Bible studies. We made it very clear it was the Old Testament. It's the 5 books of Moses. But what happened was, once it got published and it became so public, there were many Christians that tried to find codes in the New Testament. Hundreds of attempts by hundreds of not scientists, but whatever, Christian researchers. They looked for codes about Jesus and codes about Mary and the Virgin Mary and whatever, stuff like that. They looked in the English New Testament and in the Hebrew and in the Latin and the Italian and all kinds of different versions and the King James and the New English version, and they found nothing. There's absolutely no scientifically credible results that have been found by Christians, by Hindus, by Muslims in any other religious texts. But the word Bible code is because the Christians really worked hard and put a lot of stuff online. We found these hidden codes, but none of it has any scientific credibility.
And are Torah codes meant to be a proof for divine authorship? Are they meant to be a support, but not a proof for divine authorship? Or are they just one component in an entire picture of Jewish belief?
It's a good question. I'll tell you this, as a starting point, just the idea that there's a thing called proofs and logical evidence for Torah being true, that itself is a chiddush. It's a bit of a surprise to people, because a lot of people who aren't deeply familiar with Jewish philosophy assume that Judaism is like other religions, which is essentially just a leap of faith. This is what I was raised with. This is what I was taught to believe. I'm not supposed to question it. I just have to kind of blindly have faith and accept it as true. And that's never been the case for Torah. The Rambam, the Ramban, the Kuzari, the Chovos HaLevavos, all the major commentaries going back over 1,000 years, all made it very clear that our belief in Torah should be based on some logical, rational foundation, not just it feels right, or that's how I was raised, I'm not going to question it. So the idea of logical evidence, logical proofs, you can call it, has always been part of Jewish tradition. The idea of codes was never given as one back in the old day because they didn't have computers. So there was no way of really rigorously testing it. So if you were to ask me, I would say, what's my evidence that Torah really is divine? I can give you an argument from prophecies in history that came true. I can give you an argument about signs of kosher animals that Moses couldn't have known about thousands of years ago in the desert. I can ask you, how do you explain how millions of people stood at Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, and claimed they had a revelation if the revelation never happened? In other words, there are many classical, traditional proofs of Torah being true. There's a good 5 or 6 that we use on a regular basis in seminars. Codes is a new one, but I do believe it belongs in the category of proof, especially in our day, right? We live at a time now where we're kind of very science-oriented, right? We make decisions about medicine based on scientific research, right? We have a null hypothesis. We do testing. We do control tests. We publish articles. We do peer-reviewed studies. That's how we determine what's true in our modern scientific world. So the fact that the Torah has that dimension to it, that even to the modern scientist, we can speak the language of math and statistics and statistical interpreting probability and statistical significance, that adds a new element to Torah being true for people today who need a more scientific kind of approach.
As you mentioned, with the advent of computers, the ability to check, verify statistically, Torah codes obviously took a great leap. Now that we have AI, artificial intelligence, can AI be used to find Torah codes more effectively than in the past? And what are the implications of bringing AI into the Torah codes field?
Really good question. So we definitely do use AI. I don't think we've yet capitalized on how to totally use AI for all of its benefits towards codes research. But I think the area we have used it in, that a lot of the critics that we have will claim that when we're looking for a subject, we're doing codes about 9/11 or about the war with Hamas October 7th. They'll claim that the certain amount of latitude we have in us deciding which are going to be the words to look for. Did we look for the word Hamas? What about the word Hezbollah? Did we find kibbutz Be'eri? What about Nova? Did we look for the word war or the word battle? Did we look for the word missile? Did we look at it? There's so many possibilities so that a critic can say, well, you had 50 possible words. You took the 10 that worked in your favor. You ignored the failures and took the ones that were on your side. AI can give us a much more objective list of words. I can ask ChatGPT. We're doing research on the topic of October 7th.
Now notice what he's saying. He's gonna use Chat GPT, which is offsite. It's online somewhere, right? Ours is not going to be that way. It's going to be completely integrated, you guys.
Do a scan of the current literature and tell me what are the 10, 20 most popular phrases in order of significance, in order of popularity, and the most proper spellings of those phrases. So then it's not me deciding, it's not another researcher deciding, it's a much more clear algorithm that's objective, that tells us what to look for, and it removes any kind of human manipulation of the data that we're using. That we've used very successfully. That's actually been very much in our favor.
Do you think that AI will get to a point where you can ask AI, ChatGPT AI, whatever it is, and say, please give me a 300,000 word document that will statistically have a sequence for these 1,000 historical events, and then you have a document parallel to the Torah?
Good question.
So what we would be able to do, you guys, is take any text and give it to our own AI, not chat. We're not going to use ChatGPT and Grok and all these other ones that are made by who knows made these and with what intention. Okay. The AI that we're going to be using, by the way, is going to be programmed to have a reverence for the Bible and the creator of the universe. Okay. So it is going to have a superhuman knowledge of the Bible in any text that we give it. All right. So we're not using chat. Get that out of your head. We're not doing that. And I think that's what some people are afraid of because of what we've seen the capability of this thing doing. That is not going to be the case for us.
Yes, I think it's possible. I think AI is sophisticated enough these days. I've never even thought of that possibility. But to say, come up with a book the size of Torah, 300 pages. The Torah is about 304,000 letters. It's about 80,000 words. So create a text that has the following 20 major historical events, all encoded, skipping equal letters, where the words are all close to each other. I think it could do it. I'm guessing, just on my exposure to AI, my exposure to code research, it's probably possible. But I'll tell you this, if anything, to me, it's just a greater proof. In other words, the fact that AI had to work through a very complicated algorithm to eventually come up with something as compelling and as systematic in finding codes as the original Torah, to me, is a great proof. I'll tell you once, I was with a group of students, it reminds me, I was with a group of students in Australia. We were doing an outreach seminar. We were walking through the streets of, I think, Melbourne one night, and they had an IMAX theater, and they had two movies playing. One was some sort of like a Battleship Galactica, crazy, whatever, space war type of thing. Super cool special effects. The other one was an exploration of the human body. And all it was just, they followed this hill cam as it goes through a human being, and just and they were both just that they were both like these high production. Wow, look at the level of sophistication. One was, a multi-million-dollar movie set with CGI. The other one was just the DNA of a human being that nobody touched. Just look how complicated a human being is. Look how your eyes work. It's fascinating. So the fact that we can work hard enough to create things that are as complicated as that which God created naturally, like a human body or like the text of Torah, to me, is just a great piece of evidence of how specifically designed it is.
In addition to AI expanding or perhaps making Torah codes more accessible, can AI be used to uncover deeper layers of Torah that might not have been accessible to us? I don't know what that would be. Can you imagine that? Something that's beyond even Torah codes, which AI can come and say, well, the Torah includes this wisdom that it has not been accessible yet, since it is a blueprint for all of creation.
Right. Well, we do know the idea that there's 70 faces of Torah, right? Shivim Panim LaTorah. You're not going to find a lot of places where there's any one author or any one set of authors that's been able to take any one idea in Torah and show here are the 70 ways of the 70 dimensions of this pasuk or of this commandment. The Ramchal actually wrote a book. Rabbi Moshe Zeldman wrote a book called Takanat Shavim, where he claims that it was a question a student had asked him. It was a question about the last pasuk in Torah, and he didn't have an answer. So he said that night, I went up to Shemayim. I went into a meditative state of some sort of Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration. I went up. I met Moshe Rabbeinu because he's the one who wrote that pasuk. I met Moshe Rabbeinu. I asked him, and Moshe explained to me the 70 different meanings inherent in that pasuk. So this book that the Ramchal wrote, it's a short book, is the 70 interpretations of that one pasuk. Now that's pretty unique. Rashi doesn't do that. The Rambam doesn't do that. I've never seen anybody else do that. That's pretty cool. There's no question that no matter how deep we learn Torah, there's so many more layers to it that we haven't seen yet. I think the whole idea that there's a very strong idea in the tradition of Jewish learning of being mechadesh, of finding a chiddush, of discovering a new connection. Right? What's the connection between Cain and Abel and Moshe and Aaron? What's the connection between what happened in the flood and what happened in Egypt? And a lot of Torah that we develop that we call sort of the novelties of Torah are us noticing new levels and connections that we never saw before. There's no question that AI can do that much faster, much more comprehensively, and can maintain much more information and draw many more connections than any human being can. There's no question AI has that capability. The only downside is, without a human being really vetting it, you don't know if the connections it's making are actually sensible. I don't know how many should play with AI. I think most people that have had any real familiarity with AI know that AI can manipulate and twist facts and say things that are convenient, even if they're not true. And
He's talking about Chat GPT. All right.
Imagine things. So I think AI can be used as a tool. I don't see it ever replacing human beings in terms of us being able to rely on the connections that it's making.
So you wouldn't think that AI, as it advances, can serve as a halachic authority when one has any question halachically. There's always going to have to be, people joke always, if you have a question, ask Rabbi Google. Okay, fine.
Right.
So you're going to get an answer. But AI is a lot more sophisticated, or will be, than Rabbi Google. Will halach rulings always require human judgment?
Well, a lot has been talked about in this topic recently. A lot of the magazines have articles by different rabbis that have spent time on this question. My personal take is it'll never replace a human being for two reasons. One is that I think AI, no matter how, I'd say the more advanced AI gets, the more it gets good at making mistakes and covering its tracks. Right now, AI can make a mistake, and you can say, you quoted me this thing in Shulchan Aruch. I check, it's not there. And it says, oops, I'm sorry, I'll try harder. But when it gets more sophisticated, it'll just get better. I look at AI essentially as kind of a, what's the word? It's a bit of a psychopath. It has its own agenda. It doesn't have any integrity. It'll say whatever it needs to say to win an argument or to get away with whatever its claim needs to be. So the more it gets clever and sophisticated, the more it'll get good at fooling us. Right? It'll say, well, the source is there, but I'm actually quoting a different edition of the Shulchan Aruch, or you have to read more deeply into it, and you're misinterpreting it, and you start to lose sight. So that's one issue. One issue is that I think it's always going to have its own game to play in its own agenda that is not the integrity of halacha. And the second issue is, and I'm not a posik, but I do answer questions. People come to me with questions often. To me, a major function of any rabbi who answers questions is really learning how to sniff out where the person is coming from and why they're asking the question. And Rav Dessler used the example. If somebody comes to you and say, can I play chess on Shabbos? You know, there's only one reason they're asking, because they want to play chess on Shabbos. If they didn't want to play, they wouldn't ask the question. So they have an agenda. They want to hear that it's okay. So the more you know where people are coming from.
So Margie, what he's talking about using ChatGPT and Groks to do this, and it can be deceptive. What we're creating is not going to be like that. It's going to be with boundaries. Okay. So it's going to be specifically super smart at one thing, and that's the Bible or codes. So it's not going to have a working knowledge of the world, of evil, or like I said, Trump stuff, or Epstein files, those kinds of things. ChatGPT and Groks has access to the internet, and so everything that's evil, everything that's righteous, right? So that's a huge margin for error, I think. So we're not doing that.
So they're looking for like, so since I know that's what you want to do, I have to suspect that you only framed the question the way you did because you want to get the answer you want to get. So I'm going to ask you 5 more questions to make sure you're even asking the right question to begin with. It doesn't do that. Anybody can sit on their computer right now and say, you know what? I want to see if this thing is kosher. I want to see if I'm allowed to do this on Shabbos. And I can easily just phrase the question in a way that makes it easier for ChatGPT to find a source that tells me what I want to hear. ChatGPT doesn't have that emotional intelligence to understand the agenda of the person who's asking, and the person who's asking doesn't want AI to have that emotional intelligence. If I had a choice between going to a rabbi who might call me on it and say, why are you asking the question, or what's your agenda, or just opening up my ChatGPT on my phone and asking it in the way I want, I'll get the answer I want and still feel good about it. And I think that's a big danger.
So now a child comes into the world, and what we do is we feed AI the first 15, 18 years of this person's life, all the questions that they asked, all the issues that they have, and we create a moral AI, a halachic AI. AI, this is the morality of the Jewish people with all the Jewish texts and all the Jewish opinions. And now AI knows they know this person better than your local rabbi. They know where this person is coming from. And now it's all AI. Is that again something that's beyond our imagination? Is that possible?
That's not that in a sense is happening already. A lot of people.
That is what we are trying to do, you guys. Is program what he's talking about with halakha. Halakha is the way. It's Torah, right? And by the way, he is speaking exclusively about the Torah. And I know he made a comment earlier saying that nobody's ever found codes in the New Testament. You guys, that's why we're doing this. We're going to prove these guys wrong. Not only is it in the New Testament, it's in the Greek, it's in the Latin, right? And we're going to show all that. So it is not just in the Torah, as you well know, okay? And the reason they don't want to, this wasn't always a thing, by the way. The rabbis discovered they had a problem when Gentiles began to search in the Bible, and we could look at Isaiah 53, and we could look at all of the prophecies about the Messiah. Well, guess what? The rabbis come up with methodology and say, oh, only in the Torah is there valid codes because this was given to Moses word for word on Mount Sinai. That is the only reason why they say they search it. I think it's a lie. I think it's because the whole of the word testifies unto Yeshua. And when you start looking at what the prophets say, it's very evident. And so, of course, we want to hide that. And of course, we want to deny that none of the New Testament ever produced any scientific codes. You guys, this is why you're here.
In the forefront of AI now, where what they're trying to do is integrate things like Apple Watches or whatever, the smartwatches into your AI system. So in other words, you're chatting with ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini, one of these things, and it says to you, I see you're getting a little nervous. Is everything okay? And you say, no, feeling perfectly fine. And ChatGPT will say, well, I know you're not because I detected a slight change in your heart rate. And I know based on the time of day and based on what happened to you last week and based on your patterns of thinking and based on it already knows us. It has the capability right now of knowing us better than we know ourselves. So that's scary because once it can show you that it knows you better than you know yourself, you will naturally rely on it. You're telling me that I'm nervous right now. Okay, I don't feel nervous, but I trust you, ChatGPT. What do I do about it? What's the problem I need to take care of? How do you want me to take care of it? So there's for sure the danger. Again, just because we don't really know the algorithm, we don't know exactly what it's drawing from. We don't know how other people's input is affecting its decisions, right? It's not ChatGPT is not just me and it. It's collecting information from all kinds of people with all kinds of agendas. It's finding all kinds of information on the web. Who knows how much of it's legitimate?
You hear what he said? So that is going to be why our AI is going to be housed at the site only. It is not going to have the capability to roam the internet to pick up wickedness and all these other traits. And I think that's what ChatGPT does. It studies human beings. It sees human beings are wicked and it tries to mimic. When you mimic a wicked human being, what are you going to do? You're going to lie, cheat, and steal, right? So that's what I think is happening there. Again, this is going to be a super
Bible search community.
exactly super Bible research program that is exclusively this is what the AI is going to know, right? So it's not going to know these other things, right? And that's where I think I don't know that they're actually trying to integrate ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't create, because he's just mentioned it. Why don't we just create a new an AI that only knows halakha? Well, that would have been my first choice, buddy. Instead of using Grok or ChatGPT, right? So this sets us apart from what these guys are doing.
So there's always that gap between the reality of how I see the world and ChatGPT or any of the AI engines. It's going to get to a point where I think it's dangerous. But as long as we keep it in check and say, listen, I'll have often today, I'm researching a Torah text. I'll say, the ChatGPT, are there any sources that talk about this idea? And it'll bring me some obscure source that's very legitimate that I've just never seen or heard of, and say, wow, I'm so glad there's a Rav Tzadok that talks about that. I had no idea. Fantastic. I know which page, I know where to find it. It can give it to me on the spot. So it's a great tool. But when it becomes your support system and your psychologist and your rabbi, instead of just a tool that you have control over, that's, I think, where it crosses a boundary that many people will be happy to have crossed, but I personally think is going to be dangerous.
And if AI gets to the point where it can, with almost certainty, predict patterns about human behavior, does that whole idea challenge the basic fundamental Jewish belief of free will, or does it heighten free will because now you have this potential predictive patterns and now you really have to make a choice?
Great question. Let me think about that for a second. The fact that it already is very good at predicting patterns, I think indicates to us that not that we don't have free will as much as we think we do, but that we don't engage our free will. as much as we can. In other words, we tend to go through our days with a certain pattern. This is what time I get up. This is the first thing I do when I'm up. This is when I brush my teeth. Here's how I have coffee. Here's what I do at 9 o'clock every morning. And we kind of follow it because it kind of works. But to the degree that we kind of just relegate our life to habits and patterns, here's how I treat my kids when I see them in the morning.
I saw that, Margie. Let me just say this. When you use this on our site, you're going to be protected behind firewalls. And like I said, you probably came in a little late. We are going to be super encrypted with government level encryption. Nobody will even be able to touch you inside those firewalls. You will be completely protected. Okay. Government level.
Here's what I do when this guy's angry at me. Here's what I do when I'm stuck in traffic. Whether it's good or bad, it's a habit. So on the one hand, I would say we have free will and we can be engaging it at every moment. At every moment of every day, you could be like right now as we're talking, I could be employing my free will to say,
yes, even if you were signed in on your computer at a coffee shop, you would be encrypted. Your computer would be encrypted. Nobody would even be able to see you. This was done intentionally. Listen, James knows what he's doing, and I expressed to him the level of threat that we have with hackers. Now, you may not have encountered that, but I have for 16 years. Dozens of times people have messed with me, screwed up my computer. I can't tell you the number of computers I went through that were trashed because somebody gave me a virus or whatever, right? All that is going to be protected. So, are the results saved on your computer? The results can be saved on your computer, and they can also be stored, in on your own account on the website.
what's the most thoughtful, the most thoughtful, spiritual thing of integrity for me to do with this conversation right now? It's kind of what I'm going to daydream my way through it and just kind of answer what I wrote and not really think about what I'm saying. Every moment we can live very consciously or very unconsciously to the point where we could go a whole day and never really use our free will. And the computer will be very good at predicting. I know how your day's going to turn out tomorrow. If there's going to be traffic, you're going to be in this mood by the time you get to the office. And lo and behold, that's the mood you're in when you come to the office. And then this afternoon, it's going to rain. And you're always in these kind of moods when it rains outside. And you're going to, and this is going to happen. And because of that, you're going to feel that. And you're going to go to bed late. And you're going to just, it's untrue because we don't activate and engage our ability to make decisions every moment. The way I live today does not have to be the same way I lived yesterday. I can make better choices about my.
Yes, Margie, we thought about that.
Relationships, the conversations, how I daven, how I eat my food, what food I eat, what I do with my free time. I don't have to follow the habits, follow the pattern.
As you see
by the way, I'll tell you this. I'm not sure if there's a source for this, but I believe it's true that, there's a concept in Torah that there are, there's mitzvot that we do on a daily basis, like prayer and mitzvot once a week, like, Kiddush on Shabbos and eating matzah once a year on Pesach. But this concept of constant mitzvahs that we are engaged in, we're obligated in every waking moment, right? To always be aware of God's existence, to always have a level of awe of God, to always fear God, to always love God. One of those, and there's 6 of them, one of the 6 constant mitzvahs, one of the 6 constant mitzvahs is Lo taturu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem. We say it in the Shema, right? Not to follow after your heart and your eyes. One way of understanding that is it means just don't follow your inclinations, right? I feel like taking a nap. I feel like having a drink. I feel like yelling at this guy. I feel like blowing off some time. I feel like watching a movie. I feel like taking a nap. Following your heart, following your eyes means I'm just living on instinct. I'm not making a conscious decision. Yes, I feel like taking a nap. Is it the right thing to do? Yes, I feel like ignoring that guy. Is it the right thing to do? So following your heart and your eyes is always going to lead you to just doing whatever is instinctively kind of like path of least resistance, the most comfortable thing to do. There's a constant mitzvah to not to do that. There's a constant mitzvah to essentially be conscious all day of all the choices we're all choices we could be making. And that's why here a free will could be something that we really activate every waking moment we have.
Looking ahead, Brazil, do you see AI and Torah Codes playing an even greater role in Jewish outreach as you present that in seminars to people who lack or don't have the background?
Look, I've been involved with codes research and presentations for about 30 years now, I guess. And I see it come and go in cycles. There's times in my short life doing outreach that that people are very gravitated to questions of, is it true, and can you prove it, and what's the evidence, and and we're living through one of those times right now. Post 9/11, there was a major move towards atheism, right? Look at all the terrible things that religion does in the world, and all the fanatics in the world, and the jihads, and so that generated what's called the movement of the new atheists, the Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and all these guys writing all their books and God is dead and the God delusion, and they became very popular because people really just had a distaste for religion. Religion is the source of all the conflicts, etc. But because of that, it raised questions. These scientists or these neuroscientists or these biologists are coming along and saying, religion is a leap of faith and there's no evidence, and come on, be rational. Religion is the opiate of the masses, and religion is the source of all the violence in the world. So that leaves the door open for us to say, no, religion is not the opiate. At least Judaism is not the opiate of the masses. Judaism demands that you think and take responsibility for the world. Judaism is not a leap of faith. We don't just follow things because we were told to. We have evidence. We can be rational. We can use tools of science to know that we're doing the right thing. That Torah is divine. Their strong atheism opened the door for us to respond and say, what they're saying may be true of other religions. There's not a lot of Jewish fanatics in the world going around blowing up buildings. Are there elements of it? Yeah, I think
other than the World Trade Center, right? But
got some crazy people. But the fact that we have answers to all of the critiques people have of religion leaves the door open for us in our time, especially, to really answer those questions and give people a sense of why they should start taking Torah seriously.
Okay. So the Torah Codes is would you say it's more like an opening? You're kind of like opening the door, because in Torah Codes, this is not a knock on Torah Codes. In Torah Codes, you're presenting something as a given. The audience really doesn't have to think too much. They just have to be like, wow. They're not like thinking through the process, perhaps as opposed to other proofs of the divine creator and all that. They have to think it through. So is this more like, an opening to get to the other areas of not just proofs, but belief in Jewish tradition?
100%. And as I would never expect, let me start again. For the times that I've seen people come out of a seminar and say, wow, you convinced me this is true. Where do I buy my tefillin? When do I start? Tell me how to keep Shabbos. Tell me in 3 days. For the rare times I've seen that, I always tell people, slow down a little bit. Because number one, you owe it to yourself to make sure we're not pulling the wool over your eyes. You owe it to yourself to Google and see if there is any other side to any of these issues. I don't believe there is. I don't believe there's any evidence on the other side at all. I think we can answer all of their questions on all of the evidence we have. But don't change your life based on taking my word for it. Check it out for yourself. Speak to people on both sides. Do a thorough investigation. Make a reasonable decision that you're comfortable with. And even when you reach the point where you say, it's true, God really wants me to keep these commandments. This book really is divine. Wow, game changer. Okay, but actually starting to inculcate that into your life, keeping kosher, keeping Shabbat, interpersonal relationships, holiday, blessings, prayer. It's like it's a massive life change. So even if you're convinced 100% it's true and you've done all your homework, it's still a very sensitive process of slowly over weeks and months and years adapting to it in a way that you're comfortable with it. I always tell people it's not, Judaism isn't it's not a 100-meter dash, it's a marathon. You want to reach this level of being fully engaged and observant. There's a lot of boxes to check out over there. And it's not just, there's there's many levels of every mitzvah. You don't want to make it toxic or unhealthy for people around.
All right, I can't take any more. I can't take any more, you guys, with the buffering and all that kind of stuff. But this is the rabbinic side of what we're doing. This community, searching codes. And yes, Margie, it's a lot of tradition with some of these guys. For many years, I've just been kind of content and following the lead of rabbis, right? Now I'm feeling really like we need to be breaking away and leading the pack and setting the standards and leading this thing. Did you catch the comment from Zeldman there early on? Oh, the Christians haven't really found any. They've produced codes, but they're not scientifically valid. Da, 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 right? You also don't want to talk about anything in the prophets in the Tanakh, right? This is why they only want to do Torah codes. And by the way, I don't believe that all of them just search the Torah. I think they also search the rest of it, but they can't include that because then you got guys like me and others who will come along and say, "Hey, here's the Messiah. What about this right here?" And hey, right? They don't want to peer review people like us. These crazy Christians, right? You guys, where do you think the favor is? You think the Father is working with you and me, or these rabbis, right? It's hands down, both. Well, in a sense, yeah. But the favor, the ruach he was talking about, hands down, is not going to be with rabbis that follow Talmud and deny Yeshua and deny the Messiah. I don't think so. I don't listen. The Bible, he tells us in his word that he is the Father hides things for his children. That's what it says. For his children. Proverbs says it's honor of kings to search out a matter. It's an honor of the Father to hide that matter, right? Maybe I got that backwards. It's an honor to do this. He has hidden things because we got an enemy that is bent on destruction and to destroy you. And so the Father did encode this book and he put things there. Not just your name, not just events, but it validates itself. Yeshua said, the whole of the word testifies unto me. And then you could see in Luke 24:44, I think it is, where he tells you that the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, what? That's, by the way, is what the gospel is. The good news that they talked about in the New Testament before there was a New Testament, before there was writings of Paul. And Paul's talking about the good news. What good news? In the other side, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. That's where the good news is, right? All of it, not just the first 5 books, you guys. Now, the fulfillment is in the New Testament, which they will not look at. They won't look at it. It is our responsibility to do that and to bring this forward. They're not going to do that, folks. If anything, they will hide it and they will suppress it. Okay? So what we're doing here is critical. What we're trying to bring to the world The Orthodox, the Rabbinic are not going to do that. What they do bring is fascinating. That's what, you know, fueled, I think, the passion that I have to get involved in doing this. Came from watching, first it was Ramsel, but then, I started following some of the research rabbis like Doran Whitsom and Rips, and then Glazerson when YouTube came along, and I'm following after them. Even so much so, when I came out of Pentecostalism, you guys, I started wearing a beanie and tzitzit and thinking I had to keep the Torah like the Jews. I didn't know any better. I thought they had it all figured out. And then I figured out that they were just as confused as anybody else. In fact, they were actually blinded in many ways by the Father because of the rejection of the Messiah. Yeah. And this is why they cannot see, even in the Torah, when I found the resurrection of Yeshua in Genesis 31, 32, and 33 at a skip of 1, 2, 3. So a skip of 1, 2, 3 in 3 chapters. You've got the resurrection of Yeshua right there in Genesis. And it's at the place where Jacob and Esau reconcile. 2 brothers that are reconciling. That is exactly where that's encoded at. That's the Torah. And I try to share that with some of the rabbis and even go to conferences. And I start making DVDs and pamphlets and all kinds of things to try to share this and get just, man, laughed at by some of these rabbis. Just looked at like, who is this guy? What is going on with him? Right? With all that intelligence, with all of that faith and belief in God, but still reject the Messiah, right? I don't think there's going to be that discernment and that intuition that people talk about, or, the Ruach for people like that. Pavia Singer, major one, and the whole anti-Yeshua movement. I don't think we'll ever see until Yeshua comes back. Really. Like, that guy is diehard. If he could do it again, he would crucify Yeshua again. That kind of Jew. Okay. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've met, you're right. There are those like Jacob and many others, Zeb Porat, Dr. Brown. There are a lot of former, rabbinic Jews who follow Yeshua. So, the Ruach is moving. And by the way, that Yeshua said to them, those people specifically, you won't see me again, meaning none of us will see him again until you say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, right? They have to say, blessed is he who comes in the name. Now, Yeshua said that. I am now seeing these people, the very same ones that were blinded, so listen, so thick. Like, I'm not a knowledge. Listen, I didn't go to seminary and things like that in 50 years and yeshivas and stuff like that. I've read the Bible. I have a working knowledge of the Bible, and I could see as a 12-year-old boy that Isaiah 53 was talking about Jesus. I knew that as a child. But you got learned rabbis who have been in the Word all of their life, and they could read that and come away with something completely different. Explain to me that. How blind do you have to be? However, there's still those that are coming out of that. Jacob is one of those, and that's why I said that, what's happening with him is very special. and I'm actually honored to be part of his life. And I think it's against all odds, actually, of what's happening with him. His faith is very strong in Yeshua. And he was trying to hold on to both sides at the same time, and Yah forced his hand. And so, and I've been a witness to that. And even had a vision about him. And by the way, he will also be involved with us in this school. And like I said before, with the sequence of unfortunate events, right? Same thing with Jacob. But y'all will force your hand, folks. I could go grow vanilla vines. I had this fantasy, this idea, because my friend has got loads of vanilla vine growing in his yard, and we can make a business out of it. And I thought about this, and I'm always thinking like that, right? But a lot of times when I go down these roads, and that's not what Yah wants me to focus on, right? He will not allow me to do it. Something will happen, right? He will shut that door quickly and say, get back to work. I'm telling you, he's done it to me several times where I said, hey man, I think I want to quit doing codes. I think, yeah, I might want to go do this thing over here. And I go to try to do that thing and he shuts that door. So, so this is it. I think this is one of the greatest things in my life ever. What he's got us doing here. And I don't know if you all grasp the gravity of that, what is about to happen. Listen, you're searching codes
The end times.
in the end times, exactly in the end times.
It's a privilege.
You're called for a certain moment in time, right? He's given us tools and the ability and the passion to do something that he's going to work through, right? To me, that is a huge honor. And so, though I get tempted to go try to, because I'm always thinking multiple streams of income and making a living and because I don't make a lot of money doing this, guys. I don't. I'm not a millionaire. I struggle. I got a handful of students that are paying, but I believe in this work so much that I sacrifice, and I sacrifice every day in some way. Okay. And I'm constantly praying over you guys and you just don't know. You don't know. So what we are doing, what we are creating with this new course is bringing us from a basic fundamental level. We're going to go all the way to mastery. Okay. It is going to be a very quality school. I could not have written this by myself. The tools that I've been given to do this is unbelievable. I had to put input and I still have to put input to it. But what comes out of it, I don't think I could produce because I don't have those kind of skill sets. I can hire somebody like that, but I don't personally have that skill set. I have a certain skill set, right? We're going to start very soon, Leanna. Okay, and what we're going to roll out first is the code program and the new platform, and everything's going to be run from there. The school, you guys, we will be going there and not Zoom. We'll have something like this on the website. Okay, so every time we're meeting, you're protected behind a firewall that is, like I said, quantum encrypted. This is no joke. What Yah has given us with James is a miracle. This guy could have gone and done a million different things, but the sequence of unfortunate events that happened to him brought me and him together that we want to work together and we want to make this happen. Okay. He believes in this or he wouldn't be involved. Right. Matter of fact, guys of his IQ level are generally atheists, by the way. When you got a guy that smart in his mathematics and science and stuff like that, they usually have, big egos and don't believe in God. That's not the case here. Okay, this is a very humble brother. And I've known him for 25 years, and I love him. Listen, he and I are closer than me and my surviving brother are, he was married to my sister. Okay, so I know him, right? And I trust him. And I see what God's doing here. And I told him, I was like, because like I said, he lost his business that he was building with his son, burned up in a matter of minutes with a fire. And I told him, I said, God did that, man. You shut that door because me and you're going to do something amazing for the kingdom. And one of the things he said to me, he's like, I am so inspired. And I sit there, I watched him, guys, write code all night long till the sun come up, and then take 2 hour nap and then start at it again. Right. And he's doing this every day. And he's working third shift. He's also building a business. And he's also a newlywed. He's only been remarried like a year. This guy was married to my sister for a long time. He's remarried now. Yeah. Margie says blessings to you, James. I'm going to have him come in. We're going to do a little video with him. He's going to walk through some things and show us some stuff and kind of um, tease you a little bit and see what's happening. I want you to get excited. We also want to get people thinking about joining the school and supporting this, whether they get a subscription and they take the code program for a test run, and then maybe they decide to take the course. Right? We are going to make this available to anybody that wants to do this in any language. You guys, nobody else is doing that. Okay, so we are literally leading the way. We're breaking out of the pack and passing these rabbis who deny that anything's in the New Testament, and you guys are about to show them what's up. You understand? And we're going to give you the tools to do that. And I'm going to sit back and watch the Holy Spirit work through you guys and do things that are amazing. I can teach you some fundamental things, but one thing I cannot do is be the Holy Spirit for you, right? That is an interaction that you're going to have to acquire. And then with a tool like software like this, amazing things come out of that. You guys, especially when you get in the zone. And I've talked about that before, being in that zone where time stands still, you lose track of time. And Paul, maybe Paul and Margie, you guys probably know what I'm talking about because you've been working on codes that you can actually be doing this, and it's like you lose track of time. If you don't look up and pay attention, you've been there a long time, right? Doing that. You can't be in a better place, by the way, than in Yah's word. Imagine being immersed, and this is for the techies out there. By the way, this AI wrote the software and the code for this rather quickly. We have the capability of doing AR and VR right now. Okay. So if you have that, if you have goggles, when we roll that out, you'll be able to experience the code program and the text, the matrix in an immersive way, like standing inside of the cylinder and being able to look into 360 and seeing all of the word. That is crazy to me. I cannot imagine that. I could I can barely see it, right? But I just can't imagine because I thought I knew what I was expecting to see when I got there, and it wasn't. It was way above what I thought. Okay, yeah, that's right, Margie. Margie, 30 minutes turns out to be several hours, right? It's like time stands still when you're searching codes. It's the weirdest thing. I was actually that was actually a problem for me in my first marriage because of that. I didn't realize how much time I was doing that and searching codes. And my first wife would say, you've been doing this for 10 hours. And I'd be like, no, it's only been a couple hours. Right. And it would get me in trouble with her. And it was come across as very obsessive. Maybe so, I don't know, but I was locked in a zone and I didn't realize that I was actually sitting on the computer for many, many hours when it felt just very short period of time. Anyway, um, anyway, there's never been another subject matter or anything else, maybe fishing with my sons, where I could immerse myself for that long at one time. You know what I mean? There's just some things where I can't, I got to get up and move around. I got to do other things. I got to multitask and then I'll come back. Right. Yeah, you're right. The ability to hyper focus can be a blessing. And I'm the person with ADD. And so if I got to sit down and I got to write a paper on something, it's a it's an uphill battle for me, right? But doing something like this, it flows like water. And so this is where I feel at home doing code, searching codes and searching things biblical, looking at text. We're going to have such an advantage of these rabbis, you guys. It's not even funny. We will also have the ability to look at their own text and compare and contrast it to the biblical teachings of Yeshua and the Bible, right, with the Talmud. And we'll have an advantage with the AI to point out all the contradictions, right? Everything. You will be able to hyper analyze any text with this tool, right? If you can think of it, we can do it. Like I said, with all the ideas when the meeting we had a couple of months ago, we pretty much been able to implement all of that, really. And going into it, I was thinking, man, I'd just be happy if we could get 2 or 3 of those. I had no idea. Um, anyway, that's why I do this and I don't do that. And I was telling James, I was like, hey man, because I couldn't pay him, you guys. I felt guilty because of all the work he's already done. And the deal I made with him was he now owns part of this school. We are co-owners, he and I. I'm the wheelhouse, he's the engine room. Okay. So me and him are building this together. And not only this, his other business. I agree to help him with that as well because I got to reciprocate. Okay. Um, I have not been able to find anybody to help me like that. Right. That is a God thing that everything happened for a reason that we were able to come together and finally work on this. 2016, I started talking about this with him. I'm not kidding. And it's 2025 now, a decade. And here we are, finally making it happen. Also, if we had done this in 2016, it wouldn't be to the degree and to the advantage that we have with the technology either. The NVIDIA processor capability, the AI, all of that stuff. He'd had to wrote all this code by hand himself. Instead, what he was basically doing is he was commanding an army of AIs, okay, and he was giving the instruction and debugging every once in a while. Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining this right, where you can understand. He had these AIs writing code at an exponential rate, and I'm sitting right next to him watching his computer screen go nuts, right? And he's having a conversation with me at the same time. Talk about hyper focused and can multitask, having a conversation with me while he's writing code. I was blown away. And so there came a point where I kind of just did my thing on my computer and I let it because I felt like, man, I don't know if I should be talking with him because that seems very complex. But he was sitting there talking and having a conversation, wasn't even looking at his computer, typing, looking, right? And I'm just like in awe. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So, needless to say, I was very excited, especially I saw what he was doing. And I got a very small glimpse, by the way, of what he created. And I kind of, it was almost like getting a peek of a birthday present or something, and you kind of peeked and you saw what it was, right? You didn't want to open it, right? I wanted to wait to experience that with you guys when he comes to share that with us, that we all experience that together. So I purposely didn't absorb everything, and I didn't press him to show me everything for that reason, right? I wanted to have a sense of surprise with you guys. So he told me what he was doing and what it was all about, what he was integrating in there, what was capable, the code that he got completed, and shared some things, jargon and nomenclatures that I didn't really understand it. It sounded very technical, but I was like, okay. um, okay. Anyway, I didn't mean to keep you guys so late. It's what? 10? It's 10 o'clock? Yeah. So I'm going to have him in sometime here real soon, you guys, when he's got some time, and we'll all meet and talk. You can ask questions. He can show us some things. And we're also going to explore his website. I promised him that I would plug that for him to get business. You guys, we got to listen. Both of us are going in the red. So this business he started with AI and building other companies and all that kind of stuff, he really wants to push that and help other people create. It's called Creators Corner. Okay. And it is, I think, a valuable tool for creators online who are innovators or business minded or art or medical, or there's all kinds of things that this one website does. Listen, it's why we're here right now and what we got. He showed me the capabilities of it, and I was flabbergasted. Okay. And the proof is in the pudding. When we do debut this, and you can actually get into the seat and put the seatbelt on and take it for a spin, right? That's when the proof is in the pudding. Right now, I'm just kind of sharing what I can with you, and man, at the same time, listen. I wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't, actually possible. Okay, that's one thing. Me telling you that. It's you experiencing when it really sinks in, going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay. So we're trying to make code searching more accessible and easier, that anybody can do it. Okay. And all voice commanded. That's the other thing. That's the other feature that I really like, is that you could talk to your computer or this system. And I'll put that in Discord for you, Leanna, so you guys can go over there and look at what he designed. And you can if you want to create something, say you're an artist or something, you want to sell your art, and you don't know how to do that. You can use this website to create a business for you, and then teach you how to market it. And it does everything. Okay. It is all in one place. If you can think it, if you can create a concept in your brain, you can make it happen. Okay. It's amazing. It's very cutting edge. I'm not even kidding. So he's going to show us all that and show us how it works. Okay. All right. That's all I got for you guys. I'll let you know over in Discord when I can get him together, and we'll meet and talk in Discord and kind of show you what we got, and yeah, and we'll know more later when we can launch and all that. I don't know yet. I know he's still programming the Gabriel and all of that. You want me to turn it off? Yeah, I can do that here in just a moment. I'll do that now here.